can still be very confusing, overwhelming. There's a lot going on. It can feel very daunting. So we want you to know that we are here to help. We are your partner in this. We're available for one-on-one appointments. We are available via phone and email. So reach out to us with those questions, and whatever you need help with, we can take a look at your specific situation and really take a look at what's going on and see how we can best serve you. We're a very service-oriented unit, very student-centered, and we hope that that you recognize that and that we are able to help you. Tonight, I think a lot of your questions will get answered, but you'll continue to have questions throughout the whole process. So we hope you'll continue to join us for future webinars, and definitely reach out over the coming weeks. I also mentioned before I realized I was muted that we are going to be available during the upcoming accepted student days on April 2nd and 9th. We will be coming with our whole team, and you'll be able to schedule a one-on-one meeting with us. We will be sending out information prior to the actual events, so you can sign up in advance, and if for some reason you don't get a chance to sign up, we will be doing walk-in appointments as well. Okay, so to get started, we just want to provide an overview of what we'll be talking about. First, we want to just emphasize how students can contribute to the cost of their education. Then we'll move on to how parents can help bridge the gap between the costs and then what remains after financial aid and student contributions are factored. And then we will definitely also talk about loan options and what are available for student loans or parent loans. Now, many parents understand that students really should have some stake in this. This is their education, so we want them to be a part of this process and make sure that they're helping to contribute in some way towards their educational costs. That being said, it can certainly be challenging, so that's why we're presenting this, so you can really delve into the ways that your students can help, in addition to the way that you can help as a parent. So first, it's probably important to talk about what your costs are going to be to attend UNE. What your net costs are determined by taking your billed expenses, tuition, the general service fee, and on-campus room and board for students who are living on campus. And then you're going to deduct your gift aid, which is any scholarships or grant funding that UNE is offering. You also want to deduct any federal student loans that UNE offers as part of the financial aid package. And that's going to give you what we would refer to as your net costs, your costs after all of your financial aid is considered. It's important to note that you do not want to consider work study funding towards a fund that will help reduce and cover the bill. It's a fund that a student can earn once they arrive on campus and obtain a work study job. We will definitely talk a lot more about work study in future webinars, and if you have questions about that, that's a lot of questions. We get a lot of questions about that, but important to note for now that you do not want to consider that towards the bill. So once you have what your net calculation is, how are you going to cover it? So that's what we'll talk about tonight. The first thing that we would recommend in a way that a student can really start to contribute to this process is by completing the FAFSA. This really opens the door to the funding possibilities for college students. So we strongly recommend that everyone file a FAFSA. You're never obligated to accept the funding that you are offered, specifically the loans. By completing the FAFSA, you do not need to take the loans, but they are available to you should you need them. Really, the one obligation by doing the FAFSA that you put in is really just your time commitment. So we encourage you to do it. Here's just a quick overview of the FAFSA. I won't spend a lot of time on this. Maybe takes 30 minutes or so, an hour at most. You will need an FSA ID to sign the FAFSA, and that would be required for both the student and the parent. The FAFSA help number listed there, 1-800-433-3243. I've been working in financial aid so long, I have that number memorized and can rattle it off. They actually are very helpful. So if you do have questions, give them a call, reach out, use the little help bubbles too as you're going along the FAFSA if you have specific questions. And if you still need guidance, reach out to our office, or sometimes also guidance offices at the high schools can also help. We do recommend using the IRS data retrieval tool when you complete the FAFSA, because it's an easy way to import your tax information right onto your FAFSA instead of having to dig out your tax returns from 2020 and put that information on the FAFSA. Okay. So the academic scholarship or the merit scholarship your student was offered is the only fund that does not require you to complete the FAFSA. All other funding types do require completion of the FAFSA, and you do have to annually complete a FAFSA. So this will be the first of probably at least four FAFSA completions, if not more, if they go beyond a 4-year degree. So this is really the first job that your student has to complete to help fund their education. Their high school performance was translated into funding for college. And next, to be eligible for any other funds like the Nor'easter Scholarship or Pell Grant, federal loans, and also work study, your student needs to have the financial aid application, i.e. the FAFSA, completed. So here's an example on the screen here of what the financial aid letter looks like. Once you file the FAFSA, we get that information and we will send you this letter. You should have received a letter by now if you filed a FAFSA. I would say more than a week or two ago. You should have heard from us by now. And if you haven't, then definitely reach out so we can take a closer look at your account and what's going on. The next source of funding students can contribute to their education is the student loan funds that are offered as part of the financial aid package. We highly recommend taking advantage of these loans. The federal subsidized and unsubsidized direct loans have a variety of benefits. They have a fixed interest rate that's set annually by the Department of Ed, and it's actually typically lower than interest rates you'll find with private student loan options out there. And also, a bigger difference with this loan is that the student does not need a co-signer. It is entirely a loan in their name that you do not need to co-sign, and they do not need to have credit history to take advantage of. Another benefit of the federal loans is the variety of repayment options that can help students pay lower monthly payments after they graduate, when they're really, just starting out on, and starting to get their lives started after college. Having an income-based repayment is a potential option for them for their federal loans. And finally, federal loans are eligible for deferment, meaning payment can be postponed while they're either pursuing a graduate advanced degree, or if there's also a forbearance option. If there's any financial hardship, they can put the loan into forbearance. And then also want to mention too, public loan forgiveness as a potential option, which we won't get into, but if you're interested in that, a lot of great information on the federal student aid website. One of the disadvantages of student federal loans that we do want to mention is they are limited. You're only going to be offered a certain amount, a very fixed amount. As a first-year student, it's only going to be $5,500. So that's obviously only going to cover a portion of your educational expenses at UNE. So that's why students and families often need further financial options to help finance that gap. As I mentioned, the federal student aid website is a great resource. If you go to studentaid.gov, definitely recommend looking there for information about federal loans, as well as other types of federal aid that you might qualify for. Another way that we see UNE students paying for college is with outside scholarships. We encourage all students to apply for as many outside scholarships as possible. They really should treat applying for scholarships like they would a part-time job and set aside time on a regular basis to be working through scholarship applications. We also want to emphasize that we have a very favorable scholarship policy, especially compared to some other competing institutions out there. We're very proud of our policy, and that we will not reduce gift funding such as grants and scholarships for students who are receiving outside scholarships unless we absolutely have to. For the majority of students receiving outside scholarships, we don't have to touch their financial aid, make any adjustments to it. Again, that's not always the case at every school, so it's something you definitely want to be asking about and getting clarification on. If we have to make any adjustments to your student's package, we will start with loans or work study. All right, our website, you see there, une.edu/scholarships. We offer a variety of different scholarship search engines that are very credible, very reliable. So we definitely recommend that you use them. We suggest setting up some student accounts and really taking advantage of those search engines out there. It does take work, it does take effort, but it definitely is worth it if you are able to get scholarships. And just a few quick tips, talking about scholarships. The first thing, which I mentioned already, is really treating this like it's a part-time job and making sure that you are dedicating time regularly to searching for scholarships. If you think about it, 2 hours spent applying for a scholarship that you might get $1,000 for, that's like earning $500 an hour. Now, I'm not sure about you, but that's way more money than I make. So it's definitely worth your time. You also want to take advantage of search engines, as I just talked about, and the search engines on the previous slide. Those are great places to start. We recommend setting up an account, and you can actually get notifications about any scholarships that you are a good candidate for, based on your interest and your goals, and potentially that might make you a better candidate for those scholarships. We also recommending just applying for as many small scholarships as possible instead of a few larger ones. I mean, certainly apply for the larger ones as well, but keep in mind that the small ones do add up. A couple $500 ones, those are going to make a difference. And believe it or not, millions of small scholarship dollars go unclaimed every year because students are really only focused on the bigger prizes, which is great. And again, apply for those as well, but don't forget that bigger scholarships attract a lot of competition, so odds of winning them are much less. Don't forget about your connections. Use your connections. If your parent or a family member has work connection or organization, company that might give out scholarships. I know my local bank, I have a credit union, they've been advertising that they're giving out several $1,000 scholarships. So check with your banks, local organizations, civic organizations, churches, other religious organizations. You never know, many times they want to give back to their community, and that's how they can do that is through scholarship opportunities for students. Finally, it's important to really stay organized and be efficient. Definitely keep track of your scholarship applications and follow up with the organizations to make sure they have your application and continue to express interest in the scholarship. And, make sure that you are, if you do win a scholarship, that you are writing thank you notes and, showing them that you are very appreciative, because they are, potentially would continue to help with further scholarships and then in the future years. And they definitely want to know that they've made an impact, and they'll remember that if you send out a thank you card and give a personal touch. And there's the link again right there, une.edu/scholarships, and that will give you all of our scholarship search engines that we recommend. So we definitely encourage you to visit that. All right, another way that we really emphasize and encourage as a student contribution is for students to work and save. We really can't underestimate the difference it can make for students to work and save and put this money towards their college education. So to show you an example, a student who works 35 hours a week in the summer, which is typically about 15 weeks, and 35 hours is plenty of time, for them to work and still have fun and take advantage of, the summertime, having that off from school. If they work during the summer and then, maybe 8 hours or so during the school year in either a work study job or non-work study job, that can really add up. And by putting, $5,000 or so a year towards the college bill or miscellaneous college expenses that will incur throughout the year, this student potentially would be able to reduce their debt by $20,000. And once interest is included, they're actually reducing the debt closer to $25,000. So that means if you think about it in terms of loan repayment, that's $200 in a month in loan repayment that they potentially are saving. So, again, we understand students aren't necessarily going to cover their entire cost of attendance in their college education with money that they're earning, but it can really make a difference. If they're working in the summer and a little bit during the school year, we know, that their education is first and foremost when they're here, but students often do have quite a bit of time. If they're managing their time well, they can definitely work and earn some money throughout the year, as well as over the summer and breaks. Then not only does working in college offer financial benefits, obviously, earning money is nice, but there are also significant career-related benefits. Studies show that employers value work experience actually far more than academic attributes. So students can gain time management skills, confidence, networking. There's a lot of different skills that a student can get by working through college, in addition to helping with the financial piece. Okay, so next we're going to talk about how parents can help cover and contribute towards their students' educations. The first method that we'll talk about is making a direct payment, and we do offer an online billing service called TouchNet. Here, either parents or guardians or any authorized user can make a one-time payment, or they can also set up an interest-free monthly payment plan and pay by e-check, credit card, and they can do that all right online through our secure site. And of course, if you prefer, you can also mail payments to our lockbox, which is actually in Vermont. We do not have a campus in Vermont, but that is where our lockbox for payments is located. And you could also stop by and make a payment in person if that is something you'd like to do. And there's our address, which of course we'll be sending along with billing information at a later time. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the tuition payment plan. So this chart shows how the fall and the spring payment plans break down. You do need to enroll once per semester. So you would enroll for the fall and then you would enroll for the spring as well. It is a $25 enrollment fee, but it again is interest free. So it's a very, very low fee overall if you think about it. And you'll see that the earlier you enroll, the more time you have to pay off your balance. So if you enroll in June, as soon as you get the bill, you will be able to spread out your payments in 6 months versus enrolling in July, which would be 5, and so forth. The spring is a little less. You would have up to 5 months to pay the bill. We do send the bill out in December, right around the holidays, and then it is due in January. So again, you can enroll in the payment plan as soon as you get the bill to take advantage of stretching out the payment period for as long as possible. Some families have saved for their students' education through investment accounts, which is excellent. If you've done that, we definitely encourage you to tap into those funds. It's important to check with the financial institution or your financial planner early, and definitely before withdrawing the funds. You want to make sure that you're aware of any tax implications of the withdrawal, and you also want to make sure that you're handling the distributions correctly. Some companies do require that the funds be sent directly to the school versus directly to the family, to the student or parent. So it just varies, and you do want to reach out to your account, investment account, to find out the specifics of how to handle yours. Okay. So last, we're going to talk about student loans. So private loans are a way that many students and families do help to finance their college education. So private loans can be either a loan in the student's name or the parent's name. And typically, when it is in a student's name, you are going to need a credit-worthy cosigner. So before we can finish the discussion about borrowing for college, we really should review how borrowing limits are determined. And what I mean by that is how much your student could borrow towards their college education. So I think this will make more sense as we get into this example. So every student has what we call a cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is made up of the direct cost of tuition, the general service fee, and then room and board. The cost of attendance also includes indirect expenses, and those are things like books and supplies, personal, miscellaneous expenses, transportation. Those are things that your student may incur throughout the year, but they're not going to be billed for. So altogether, all of those costs make up what we call the cost of attendance. So to get your maximum borrowing amount, or amount that you can borrow, I should say, you will take the total cost of attendance minus any financial aid, any and all financial aid, loans, grants, scholarships, work study. And then that's going to give you the maximum loan amount that a student or family can borrow. We do want to emphasize that, borrowing for families is potentially a multi-year commitment. It's not just 1 year, but it's potentially 4 years. So you do want to be thinking big picture here, not just 1 year, their first year, but you do want to think of all 4 years that they're going to be enrolled and needing assistance to cover each individual year. Undergraduate students, whether they're living on or off campus, they really should never be receiving large refunds. What we mean by that is getting excess financial aid after the bill is paid to go towards some of those indirect expenses, because you can use financial aid, including loans, to cover the indirect expenses, such as the books and supplies and transportation, but you don't have to use financial aid, and you don't have to borrow for those expenses. That's where working and saving and students can really contribute and help out with some of those indirect costs. And really trying to keep refunds as minimal as possible. All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between some of the loan options that are out there. So there's the Federal Parent Plus loan, and that is a loan in the parent's name that they would borrow. And it is a loan that you do have to apply for through the Department of Ed. You apply at studentaid.gov. It's a fixed interest rate, and there is a 4.228 loan origination fee. And that is a fee that is deducted from the loan prior to it actually dispersing onto the student's account. So what I mean by that is, let's say that the loan is $20,000 that you're borrowing. The loan that will disperse and the amount that will actually go onto the account is going to actually be $20,000 minus 4.228%. So you're going to be repaying $20,000 plus interest, but you're not actually going to be getting $20,000 plus interest. So the plus loan is a good option to use. Many families do use it, but we also recommend potentially that you consider private loans. If you do have good credit history, there are private loans that parents can do in their name if they choose to, or students can also borrow private loans in the student's name, in their name. But again, they would likely need a creditworthy cosigner, whether that is a parent or somebody else. It can be another family member, grandparent, another family member, anyone who's willing and able to co-sign the loan. But remember, you are attached to the loan until you're either released through a co-signer release process, which some lenders do offer, or repayment of the loan, which likely is not going to be for, minimum of 5 to 10 years. We are going to be offering webinars about loan options in the future, so we'll definitely dive into more specifics on loans and in the future, and providing more information on that. Here's just a quick screenshot of our recommended lender list. It's available there at that link, une.edu/private loans. These are lenders that we work with on a regular basis, that we have good relationships with, that we feel offer competitive loan products based on their interest rates, their borrower benefits, and their customer service. You can go with any of these lenders, but you do not have to. It's not a requirement. If you want to go through a local bank or another lending institution that is not listed here, you can go through whoever you would like to. But if you are looking for a place to start, this is where we would direct you to. All right, so we'll just quickly go over the loan application process. Again, we'll talk more about loans in the future, in future webinars, but just to go over it quickly. So after you've done your research and you've decided which loan option is the best for you, you're going to apply for the loan and receive the credit decision. And then, assuming that you hopefully are approved for the loan, they're going to send the loan approval onto UNE. We will then process it, and we will disperse the funds onto the student's account. So the money does not ever go to the student or parent directly. I guess I shouldn't say ever, but for most student loans, the loan is sent directly to the school to be applied to the student account. All right. Just want to mention really quick here, we're wrapping up. Want to just emphasize this because this will be important, that the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act, FERPA, that is important for students to be aware of and to complete at some point. They don't have to do it right now, but eventually they really should take care of this, because students will need to authorize parents or any other individual who may be involved with the college process and who wish to speak with us on behalf of the student. We need to have the student's authorization. So we just want to mention this as a side note. We can speak with parents now prior to them becoming an official enrolled student, but once they become matriculated, if the FERPA is not on file, if you call us, unfortunately, we will not be able to give you any specific information about the student's account without their authorization. So we'll definitely be talking more about this and telling you how they do that, where they do it. It's listed there in UNE Online, but they don't need to worry about it right away, because again, we can speak with you for now, but it is definitely something to take care of eventually. All right, and as I have been mentioning, we definitely have some other webinars coming up that will be helpful. We're offering one a month, and we kind of try to tailor them to where you are starting, where you should really be like thinking about in terms of the process, where you're at. So the loan one, as I mentioned, that one's coming up, and then the deposit, because May 1st is the universal deposit deadline. So a lot of information that we'll cover then. The bill, we will send out the bill for the fall semester in June. So we do a webinar about that, and then another one in July, just as your students getting ready to head off to school the following month in August, because believe it or not, it will be here before we know it. So that is all we have. Here's our contact information. I know that's a lot of information. So Corinne and I are here to answer any questions. We'll stay on and you can submit your questions and we're happy to answer them. No questions? This might be a first. You can submit your questions through the chat.
We are getting some, Rachel. There was a question that asked if you could put the slide with the contact information back up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so here's our contact information, our phone number and our website and our email address as well. We're open Monday through Friday. And as I mentioned at the beginning, we are very student-centered and we are here to help. So reach out to us, give us a call, email. We answer every email individually. I will say sometimes it takes a couple business days because we do get quite a few emails, but I promise we will get back to every email individually. And if you call our office during our office hours, we will answer the phone. We all are part of a phone system that makes sure that the calls are routed to representatives. So you know, we'll speak with somebody live and we will definitely be able to assist you. I see somebody has their hand raised. Did you have a question? Maybe. Any other questions? Corinne, I don't know if you see anything else.
Rachel, yeah, there's some in the chat. So I've been answering them through the chat.
Oh, I see. Okay. Let's see. So somebody asked, and Corinne, I apologize if you've answered some of these. Somebody asked about international students. So the FAFSA does require that you either be a US citizen or an eligible non-US citizen. If you are not one of those two, then unfortunately you don't qualify for any federal aid. However, you would still receive the merit award that all UNE accepted UNE students are offered. And you would potentially be eligible for private student loan options, but you generally need a US co-signer for that. School certified cost of attendance. I would say reach out to us. It depends on what the purpose of that is needed for. If it's needed for loan certification or some sort of benefit, you know, we could provide you with some sort of documentation. Our costs are also on our website. Our website currently reflects the 21-22 costs. However, it will be updated soon, and it will reflect the 22-23, which will be the first year that your students will be attending. We'll be updating that information to reflect 22-23 in the coming weeks. Let's see. Right, am I missing any?
Just one, I'm noticing somebody had a question, stated that they received their financial aid, but they weren't able to open it. So my suggestion would be to reach out to our office either by phone or by email, and then someone can assist you by walking you through the process so that you're able to review it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the financial aid letters, you know, if you have, like I mentioned, if you have filed a FAFSA, hopefully you've received your paper financial aid offer letter that would be mailed to the address on the FAFSA. If you haven't received that, reach out to us. If you've also tried to access the financial aid information through UOnline, which is the UNE student portal, and you're having trouble with that, we do recommend, you know, you can call our office. You could also reach out to IT for assistance. That information is on the page when you're trying to get into UOnline. Their help information is listed there, but certainly give us a call and we can just take a look and make sure that, you know, you are packaged and everything is good to go, and make sure that everything is available to you, and take a look at things and help you if you need if you're still waiting for your financial aid package. You want to make sure it's all taken care of.
Hi, Rachel. There's a question does room and board include food in flex dollars?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I apologize, I'm not seeing all these questions, so please, Corinne, please keep them coming. I'm trying to fiddle with my chat here, but great question. So room and board does cover the meal plan. Students have the option to choose through a variety of meal plans. So they get X amount of meal swipes per week. And then flex dollars that they can spend at the various eateries around campus. So, you know, depends on what option your student wants to go with. They do have the ability to choose from different ones. You know, maybe they want 20 meal swipes a week and then, you know, $500 worth of flex dollars, or some other combination. I don't know what all of them are off the top of my head. The housing website, I believe, does give the breakdown of them, but the room and board charge does include the dorm charge, the residence hall charge, as well as the meal plan. The meal plan is not separate.
Thank you, Rachel. There's another question about asking what the difference is between a personal loan and a private plus loan. So for the person that asked that question, I'm assuming that we're talking about the alternative education loan.
Yeah, we can go back to that slide. Here we go. Okay. Yeah, that's another great question. So the Parent Plus loan is a federal loan. So it is a loan that you borrow through the Department of Education. And the name is, as it implies, it's a loan that the parent takes out. So the borrower is the parent, versus a private loan can be either taken out by a parent in their name on behalf of the student, or the private loan can be taken out in the student's name, but again, with a qualified co-signer. The Parent Plus loan, it is what it is. There's no different options with the Plus loan. The interest rate is what it is. The loan origination fee. So that loan is very fixed, versus private loans. There are different options depending on the lender and depending on your credit information as the co-signer. You can see here, you know, the fixed rates versus variable rates will vary slightly from lender to lender. The different borrower benefits will vary. So it just depends, and the repayment types as well, whether you do a 5-year repayment period or 10-year or so forth. That is going to vary from lender to lender. Most lenders allow students to defer the loan while they are in school, meaning they do not have to repay it while they're in school. But keep in mind that the interest on that private loan is going to be accruing while they're in school. Definitely encourage you to attend the webinar that we do next, because we'll talk a lot more about loans and kind of get into this nitty gritty of the differences in the private versus federal loans and all the specifics of it. And again, you can check out that link right there to start taking a look at these lenders. I would say you don't need to apply right now. It's a little bit early, but you can apply now. You just want to make sure that the credit approval window will still be relevant for when we actually start to process the loans, because remember, you won't get your bill until June. So we're not going to start processing the loan applications, you know, until that period, until June and July. So if you apply now, you just want to make sure that the credit approval doesn't expire between now and then. And most lenders, it won't. They do have credit approval windows that are, I think, anywhere from 90 days to 120 days for some of them. So if you were to apply now, you just want to make sure, you know, that it's not going to expire by the time we process it in the summer. Any other questions, Corinne?
Looks like we answered all the questions. We had a lot of questions about the Parent Plus loan versus the private loan. So thank you, all of you, for that. That's really a great question. There was a question from someone regarding sports and water bottles required for sports. And I did send that person a private message, but I just wanted to say, I did send the contact information for athletics, because that, I think that question is a little outside our purview, and we wouldn't want to give you the wrong information. So they would be the best authority to help you with that one. But it looks like, I think we answered everything.
Great. We know a lot of stuff, but not quite everything. Yeah, all right. Well, on that note, then we will end it here. Thank you so much all for joining us and sticking it out and spending time on your busy work night in the middle of the dinner hour. We hope it's been helpful. And again, please reach out, call, email, make an appointment with us. We're going to be available at the Accepted Student Day, and we hope to see and hear from you all soon. Take care, everyone. Have a great night.